Right now, someone is walking into rooms and people shift. They don't announce themselves. They don't demand attention. But every head turns. Every conversation pauses. Every person in that space suddenly becomes aware that the energy has changed. That's not luck. That's not genetics. That's aura, and you don't have it yet, but you will. Most men think presence is something you're born with. That confidence is a gift. Some receive and others don't. That's the first lie keeping you invisible. Aura isn't given, it's built. Brick by brick, silence by silence, action by action. And the reason you don't have it is simple. You've been trained to blend in, to stay small, to avoid making waves. You've been taught that humility means invisibility, that kindness means weakness, that being agreeable makes you likable. But here's the truth. Machiavelli knew centuries ago, agreeable men are forgotten. Powerful men are unforgettable. This video will teach you how to build an aura so magnetic, so undeniable, that people bend to your will without you saying a word, not through force, not through noise, but through presence, through gravity, through the kind of energy that makes others feel they're in the presence of someone who has already decided the outcome. Watch closely, because what you're about to learn will change how you walk into every room for the rest of your life. You weren't born powerless. You were conditioned that way. Somewhere along the line, you learned to shrink, to apologize for taking up space, to laugh nervously when challenged, to explain yourself when questioned. Every time you did that, you gave away a piece of your power. And over time, those pieces added up until there was nothing left. Now, you walk into rooms and no one notices. You speak and people talk over you. You stand your ground and others push through. That's not because you lack value. It's because you lack presence. Machiavelli understood that power is not about being the loudest or the most aggressive. It's about being the most certain. The man who moves like he belongs doesn't ask for permission. The man who speaks like his words are final doesn't need validation. And the man who carries himself like a king doesn't beg to be treated like one. People sense certainty. They feel it in your posture. They hear it in your tone. They see it in the way you hold eye contact. And when you radiate that certainty, something shifts. They stop questioning you. They start deferring to you. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy told them they had no other choice. But here's the cruel reality most men never accept. If you don't believe you deserve power, no one else will either. Your aura is not a mask you wear. It's a reflection of your inner conviction. And if you don't truly believe you are meant to lead, meant to dominate, meant to command respect, then your energy will betray you. People will feel your doubt. They'll sense your hesitation, and they will treat you accordingly. So the first rule of building aura is this: destroy the version of yourself that still seeks approval, that still flinches at rejection, that still apologizes for existing. Because that version of you is weak, and weakness has no aura. It has only desperation. And desperation repels power. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But beyond that is something even more dangerous. To be respected without needing either. To walk into a room and have people feel the weight of your presence before you even speak. That's not cruelty. That's mastery. And it starts with one simple truth. You must become someone who does not need anything from anyone. Because the moment you need validation, affection, approval, you've already lost. You've made yourself dependent. And dependent men are controlled men. Look at the people you admire, the ones with real presence. Do they chase? Do they explain? Do they beg to be understood? Never. They move with the quiet assurance of someone who has already made peace with being misunderstood, being rejected, being alone. And that's what makes them magnetic. Because people are drawn to what they can't control. They are fascinated by those who don't need them, and they will bend themselves trying to earn the attention of someone who doesn't seem to care whether they exist or not. That's the game. And once you understand it, you can play it at will. Now let's be clear about something. Aura is not arrogance. Arrogance is loud. Arrogance compensates. Arrogance needs to prove itself. But aura is silent. Aura simply is. The arrogant man walks in and announces his achievements. The man with aura walks in and lets others wonder. The arrogant man speaks constantly to remind people of his worth. The man with aura speaks rarely because his presence already says everything. The arrogant man needs you to validate him. The man with aura doesn't care if you do or not. That's the difference. And that difference is everything. So how do you build this? How do you go from invisible to unforgettable? Not your looks, your stillness. Most men move like they're apologizing. They fidget. They shift weight. They break eye contact. They nod too much. They laugh at things that aren't funny. Every one of those movements screams insecurity. And insecurity is the enemy of aura. Powerful men are still. They hold space. They don't rush. They don't twitch. They stand like monuments. And when they move, it's deliberate. Every gesture has purpose. Every step has weight. Machiavelli would tell you this. The man who appears calm in chaos is the one others look to for answers. Not because he has them, but because his composure makes people believe he does. So train yourself to slow down. When you walk, walk slower than everyone else. When you sit, sit without adjusting. When someone speaks, don't nod eagerly. Let silence hang. Let them wonder what you're thinking, because the moment you become predictable, you lose mystery. Next, your voice. Most men speak like they're asking for permission to exist. Their tone rises at the end of sentences. They add filler words. They say, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. Every one of those phrases is self-sabotage. It tells the listener that you don't even trust your own words. So why should they? Powerful speech is not loud. It's certain. You speak in statements, not questions. You let your words land without rushing to fill silent. You don't explain unless asked. And even then, you offer only what's necessary. Because over-explanation is weakness disguised as transparency. Lower your pitch. Slow your tempo. Remove hesitation. Speak like someone who has already made up his mind and expects others to follow. Not because you're better, but because your certainty makes them doubt their own position. This is psychological dominance. And it happens every time you open your mouth if you speak with finality. If you speak like your words are not suggestions, but conclusions, not because of what you said, but because of how you said it. Now let's talk about the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal. Most men are terrified of silence. They fill every gap with noise because they think conversation equals connection. But Machiavelli knew better. Silence is power. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. Silence makes people uncomfortable. And discomfort makes them talk more, explain more, expose more, while you sit back and gather information. The man who talks first usually loses. Why? Because he shows his hand. He reveals what he wants, what he fears, what he needs. But the man who waits, who watches, who listens without reacting, that man controls the entire interaction. When someone challenges you, don't defend. Pause. Let them sit in the discomfort of their own words. Let them wonder if they crossed a line. Let them backtrack on their own. When someone compliments you, don't rush to return it. Just acknowledge it. Say thank you, then move on. Because eagerness to reciprocate shows you're not used to praise. It shows you're surprised someone values you. But the man with aura expects praise. He doesn't celebrate it. He receives it like it's obvious, like it's simply the natural order of things. And here's the cruelest truth about aura. It thrives on distance. The more available you are, the less powerful you become. Scarcity creates value. When people can reach you anytime, they stop appreciating your presence. But when your time is rare, when your attention is earned, when access to you is limited, suddenly you become infinitely more valuable. Machiavelli understood this in the courts of power. The king who sat on his throne surrounded by guards was more revered than the king who mingled with peasants, not because he was better, but because distance created mystique, and mystique created reverence. So stop being so available. Stop responding immediately. Stop saying yes to every invitation. Stop making yourself easy to reach. Let people wait. Let them wonder. Let them feel the cost of losing access to you. Because the moment they realize they can't have you whenever they want, they'll start treating you like someone worth chasing. And that shift is everything. You go from being an option to being a priority, not because you demanded it, but because your absence made them realize your value. But scarcity alone isn't enough. You must also be dangerous, not violent, not cruel, but unpredictable. People respect what they can't fully understand. If you're too predictable, you become boring. Safe, manageable, and manageable men are never powerful. So cultivate unpredictability, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes generous, sometimes ruthless. Let people wonder which version of you they'll encounter, because that uncertainty keeps them on edge. And when people are on edge around you, they defer, they tread carefully. They give you control without you asking for it. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved. But what he meant was this: fear comes from respect of consequences. Love comes from dependency, and dependency is fragile. But fear mixed with respect, that's unshakable. You don't want people to be terrified of you. You want them to know that crossing you has costs, that disrespecting you has consequences, that testing your boundaries will not end well. And the way you communicate that is not through threats. It's through calm, calculated responses, through strategic withdrawal, through making them feel the weight of their mistake without you saying a word. When someone disrespects you, don't explode. That's weakness pretending to be strength. Instead, go cold. Withdraw your warmth. Withdraw your attention. Let them feel the frost. And when they try to fix it, don't make it easy. Make them earn their way back, not through cruelty, but through standards. Because the man who forgives too quickly teaches people they can disrespect him without consequence. And that man will be disrespected again and again. But the man who makes people feel the cost of crossing him, that man is never tested twice. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Confidence. Everyone tells you to be confident, but no one tells you how. So here it is. Confidence is not believing you're perfect. Confidence is knowing you'll survive even if you fail. It's the deep internal certainty that no outcome can destroy you. That failure won't define you. That judgment won't break you. Most men are afraid to take up space because they're terrified of what happens if they're rejected. So they play small. They stay safe. They never risk being seen. But the man with aura has made peace with rejection. He knows that some will love him and some will hate him. And he's fine with both, because his worth is not negotiable. It's not up for debate. It's a fact he's already accepted about himself. Machiavelli would remind you that the prince who fears losing power is the first to lose it, because fear makes you cautious, caution makes you hesitant, and hesitation makes you weak. But the man who doesn't fear loss, who doesn't cling to power, who doesn't need approval, that man is untouchable, because he's already accepted the worst case scenario. And once you've accepted it, it no longer has power over you. So stop fearing rejection. Stop fearing judgment. Stop fearing loss. Accept that all of it will happen, and then move forward anyway. Because the man who moves despite fear is the one who builds an aura that terrifies everyone else. But here's the final piece most men never understand. Aura is not just about how you present yourself. It's about what you've built when no one was watching. A man who works in silence, who builds discipline, who sharpens his mind, who strengthens his body, who earns his money, who protects his peace, because his confidence is not fake. It's earned, it's real, and people can feel the difference. You can't fake aura. You can't pretend your way into it, because the moment pressure comes, The moment someone tests you, the facade cracks and everyone sees you are bluffing. So if you want an aura that bends people to your will, you must first become someone worthy of that power. You must train when others rest. You must save when others spend. You must study when others are distracted. You must build a life so solid, so disciplined, so undeniable that your presence becomes a reflection of your work. Because aura is not a trick, it's a truth. It's the energy of a man who knows he's prepared, who knows he's capable, who knows that when the storm comes, he will not break. And that knowing radiates outward like heat from a fire. People feel it and they respond. So here's your blueprint. Walk slower, speak less, hold silence. Maintain eye contact until others look away. Never explain yourself unless absolutely necessary. Never apologize unless you're truly wrong. Become unpredictable. Become calm in chaos. Build your life in private. Let your results speak. Let your reputation grow through whispers, not announcements. And above all, stop needing anything from anyone. Because the moment you stop needing validation, attention, love, or approval, you become magnetic. People will chase what they can't control. They will value what they can't easily access. And they will bend to the will of the man who refuses to bend for them. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power is not given, it's taken. Not through force, but through presence, through certainty, through the quiet, unshakable belief that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And when you carry that belief in every step, every word, every glance, the world has no choice but to make room for you. Not because you demanded it, but because your aura already claimed it. You are no longer the man who walks into rooms hoping to be noticed. You are now the man who walks in and changes the atmosphere. You don't need to speak. You don't need to perform. You simply exist. And that existence is so undeniable, so powerful, so certain that everyone else adjusts to you. That's not arrogance. That's mastery. That's aura. And now you know how to build it. So stop reading, stop waiting, stop preparing. Go out into the world and become the man whose presence alone bends reality. Because you were not born to be forgotten. You were born to be unforgettable. Now act like it.